Okay, our 10:30 presentation is social media effects on college students. Near and dear to my heart, I just taught some of this in a class that I teach in computer science. Tag team is Marcel McCaskill, Nathaniel Brown, Brandon Tinney, and in absentia, apparently, Matt DiCenzo, who already graduated. So thank you very much, and take it away.
So hello everyone, my name is Marcel McCaskill.
I'm Nathaniel Brown. I'm Brandon Tinney.
And as our professor has introduced, we will be talking about social media effects on college students. To introduce our analysis, we chose to focus and analyze the effects of social media on college students. We felt that it was relevant to our age group since we're college students ourselves, and we thought that the college atmosphere is beneficial to our study. The effectiveness of college students using social media can be viewed when we analyze the social media platform in a political perspective and to see the beneficial factors from using those social media platforms. We find that it's important to research the effectiveness of social media to college students because from the perspective of communication scholars, using social media and studying it is beneficial since it's a mass media communication. To continue introducing our research, we chose to conduct an ethnographic study because using a college atmosphere, we find that it's credible because usually college campuses are a diverse atmosphere, so we chose that. It will establish our credibility and when we choose our sample. We also chose using an ethnographic study because we'll be able to view how college students use social media as a form to distribute information, gain information, build relationships or friendships online, and also to access information from other sites. To justify why we believe our research is relevant, social media is an essential tool of communication among all people of ages. In our case, we chose to focus on college students. We see that college students use social media as a communication factor. They use websites such as Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Snapchat. And, overall, we find that analyzing the effects of social media and how they affect college students, we find that it's a beneficial factor to analyze from the societal factors that are in today's society.
Okay, so this is our literature review portion, and so basically what this is we took all of our sources and the research that we found, and we just list them for you and explain what they are. So just the first study that we looked at was Alabashian Law. They did a study which focused on exploring the differences between the top social media platforms that college students use, and this can be seen as Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm pretty sure most of you in the audience today have one of those 4 listed social media platforms. And this helped to understand the information on how each social media platform influences a college student's social interaction, how convenient each platform is, and how entertaining each platform can be. Next, Yang and DeHart, they did a study which focuses on how college students interact and how influenced they are via social media, and this was particularly done during the 2012 elections. They concluded that participants using Facebook were affected by online political participation. However, Twitter was viewed as not as effective political platform because of the low number of participants who spent minimal time using Twitter. So just to continue, Groshek and Katuno focused on how social media can be a potential way of creating negative talk and conversations. This shows the amount of cyberbullying that social media brings about and which college students can get caught up in. Another aspect of social media influence to look at is the Lewis, Kaufman, and Christakis study, which they raised concern over someone's personal privacy on social media. What was found in their research was that students are more likely to have a private profile if someone, say, like their roommates or friends have it. And for our next, Hernandez did an article focused on how the NCAA is starting to regulate student-athletes' social media pages. This shows that corporations play a role in regulating the use of college students' social media accounts. Lev Barkley and Krupinski study compared the relationship between cell phone usage and college student grade point averages. And so as we all know, as the amount of cell phone usage increases, the academic performance decreases. And then lastly, Miller and Melton's research, they researched causes why people switch from different social media platforms and how to fix that. So this helps to understand the negative aspects of social media. So just an example, like Snapchat you could post stories, and Instagram started doing that, and also Facebook, I believe you can do that. And so now Snapchat probably needs a new way for people to still be on their app. So, they could change the format and try and hit sort of a new look to try and incorporate just a different feel and just to attract more people or bring the people back that, say, Instagram and Facebook took. And so now we're getting into our methods. For our study, we'll use a focus group because it's not very expensive or time consuming, and it is a way to reach more participants. As a first sampling, for our procedure, we gathered our participants using a network sampling method from college students who have multiple accounts from the top social media platforms. Like I said, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. The procedure will have one focus group per university. We will have 2 moderators engaging in face-to-face communication. Moderators will build rapport, build small talk, and explain the research. This will help conduct an in-depth interview that will take an hour long, and it will contain from 5 to 12 participants per focus group. This requires participants to answer questions and converse as a group to better understand social media's effect. And then just some final remarks. We'll debrief them, explain what the research was for and how they will play a role, and then we'll be thanking the participants for being a part of our research.
So the next aspect we are going to look at is research questions. So when we were forming our research questions, we looked at the studies that we had for our literature review that Matt mentioned and based it off that. And then we had our main points that Marcel covered in our justification and tried to make these questions encompass that so we could find that in our study. So the first question is, how has social media changed and influenced modern day culture on a college campus? The next question we came up with was, how does social media platforms create an online community, connecting and creating friendships for college students? And we felt like that was a really important one. That was probably the first one we actually came up with. And our last question was, how does social media enable easier outreach for college students to stay informed on college campus? So for our analysis, the analysis technique we used for our research would have been an interpretive thematic analysis. And we would use that because we'd be able to categorize similarities that college students display on social media. And in categorizing our data in this way, it'd be constructive because we would organize and interpret our answers we've uncovered. So this benefits our research because we have organized our data collection into categories, which will decrease the time consumption via data coding. So some limitations we found in studying this would be using focus group methods and a qualitative research, and the limitation with that is the data becomes limited. So then it being limited would be our college student sample doesn't fully represent the entire population. So not only do we just have one age group, we only have one age group at a certain specific point, which would be college. So we couldn't just go out and say 18 to 22 year olds, we would have to say 18 to 22 year olds on a college campus. So it really limits who we're studying. And then we are subject to becoming biased to our participants, and it can influence our participants based on our own personal biases about social media. So to avoid that, moderators would focus on limiting building rapport to minimal talk and limiting conversations between questions. So we can't have that personal relationship. Instead, it's more moderator and then questioning. And then also if a participant asks questions about our beliefs, we would deny answering their questions to establish a professional manner. Like I said, we want that professional relationship instead of like a friendship.
We came up with tips for any communication scholar or student who would like to further this type of research. To begin with our tips, we went over a research done by DeHart in 2012 who analyzed the use of Twitter in the 2012 election. A tip that we will give to a communication scholar or student in this field is that they should research Twitter's use in the 2016 election and compare their findings to DeHart's research. Another tip that we found is that they can conduct an interview. For ours, we chose to conduct a focus group. With an interview, you're able to connect more one-on-one with the participant, depending on time, because using a interview is a lot of time consuming. You have to do a lot of transcription. So based on their time schedule, it will depend on if they're able to do an interview. But for our research, we found that using a focus group will be more ideal and less time consuming. Also, another tip that we'll give out is that a researcher can try to do an autoethnographic study. For us, we could have chose to do that, but we were just limited with our research. An autoethnographic study means that the researcher is the researcher and participant. So for us, since we're college students, we could have chose that. We could have chose to analyze and research ourselves, but as I said, we were limited to that. So these are just some tips that we will give out to anyone in this field. These are our reference slides, and thank you, and we're open to any questions. Yes, good.
What was the influence for going about this as your project?
Well, we found that during this time, it was last year, we found that social media was really used a lot in the presidential election. So we chose, in our ethnography class, we chose that we were going through Dr. Russ's classes, and we talked a lot about social media impact, whether it was in social media in society. So we chose that as a group, that this information about how social media has impacted cultures in so many ways. We found that we had the most information to complete this research. Any other questions?
Did you guys find that my students, because like I said, I was teaching this not too long ago, most of the college students that I've been acquainted with recently are saying that they don't really use Facebook anymore. Is that what you're seeing too?
Yeah, at the
It's
time,
become like an old person thing?
Yeah, the study at the time, it was kind of fading out even more. And I think now it's probably even less, but the findings we found